Hi there, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the head of assistant referees for PGMOL, Mike Mullarkey. Hi Mike, how are you?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well.
Excellent. We'll talk about your current role a little bit later on, but without doubt, a stellar career both domestically and internationally. Where did it all start for you?
I think like many referees, it started out by not being good enough as a player. I think I'd have preferred to kick a ball than wave a flag, but not good enough. My dad used to referee, and when I was 14, he talked me into taking the course. Did a couple of years of youth football, and then got into men's football. Found it tough at the start, but the best thing my dad did for me was to convince me to sort of stick at it, and progressed on from there. And got on to the contributory league in 1993 as a 23-year-old.
Wow, 5 years as a contributory league referee, but obviously in 1998 you were promoted to an assistant referee on the Football League. Have you got memories of the letter you received in your very first game?
Yeah, quite a shock really, because the year before I hadn't had a great season as a referee, and I had a warning letter that I might be removed if my standard didn't improve. So 12 months later to be promoted was fantastic. So when that letter dropped through, in the traditional fashion, postman through the letterbox, it was amazing. And the first game I did was Bournemouth against Millwall, which it was in the equivalent of League One. So a great game. It was about the third week of the season, I think, and it was the bank holiday. It was the Saturday of the August bank holiday weekend. Both teams were unbeaten, so it was a terrific appointment for the first one. Very big crowd, and I just remember the referee Mick Fletcher being so calm and just coping with everything, and the other assistant referee Brian Baker, who's a PGMOL observer now. And at about 25 past 2, he said to me, "Right, we're going to go out and have a warm up. We're going to go out and jog around the pitch." And amazing as that sounds now, that was really unusual. And it was his way of just getting me into the sort of atmosphere of the day and the game, and that really helped. So the experience of those two getting me through the occasion was so important.
It's amazing how you always remember your first game with so much fondness. I mean, I was just looking at what you've achieved in the game, which is quite amazing. It's fantastic. I mean, 8 years on the Football League as an assistant referee. I found that incredible.
Yeah, so never top of the class, and I think you can find reasons and excuses if you like. And I lived in the Southwest, still do, and you always feel that, well, it's the quality of the football, it's the quality of the observers, it's everything around, and never just down to you. And in truth, I was just never brilliant, and I kind of just bobbed along, and I went to a course with a company that I worked for, and they had a sort of motivational speaker, and his quote was, "The only limits are those you accept yourself." And it made me reflect and think that it wasn't other people, it wasn't the observers that were watching me, it was my performances weren't good enough, and I kind of revisited everything I did and just tried to make those sort of improvements to not get the same advice twice. And then lo and behold, kicked on, had a really good season, and got promoted to the select group.
During that period of time on the line for the Football League, did you ever doubt yourself? Did you ever question yourself whether you were good enough?
I think more flipping it the other way around. I was delighted to have got to Football League level, and that seemed to be the ceiling for me. I didn't really ever think of myself as going on to be a sort of Premier League assistant. In fact, I think for most people, assistant refereeing was a job you did as you progressed the refereeing. So I always felt that I would progress as a referee, if anything, rather than on the assistant side.
Yeah, quite incredible. Well, you stuck in there, and of course, 2006 was a special year because you were promoted to the select group of assistant referees. 8 years up and down the Southwest corridor, as you said. How did it feel when you'd actually broken free and got promoted?
It just amazing. Yeah, I mean, I in the 2005-06 season, I'd been appointed to 4 Premier League games as development opportunities. The first of those came as quite a surprise. So I knew at the end of that 2005-6 season that I would have a chance. I was involved in the League Two playoff final that year, and then got the promotion to become select group. And again, things have changed. There were about 45 assistant referees on the select group at that time, so it wasn't as common to get regular runs of Premier League games. So although you were at that top level, you still had to work hard to sort of earn Premier League games, if you like.
Yeah, you just touched on it, the development opportunities. We're seeing it now more frequently in PGMOL. Is it something you like?
Absolutely massive for me. I mean, I'll always remember the weekend of my first appointment was coincided with the FA Cup first round. So a really special day in the football calendar for every football fan. And the appointments for the FA Cup were released, and I didn't get any appointment, not as an assistant referee, not as a fourth official. And I was really quite disappointed, and particularly because I felt I was having a good season. And then about an hour later, I got a phone call from Jim Ashworth, who was the sort of appointments officer at the time, to say, we're sending you some kit because we've got a Premier League game for you on the Saturday. And that kind of changed my mood quite a bit immediately. So it was at West Ham against West Brom on Bonfire Night. So it was fantastic to get that phone call.
I won't ask you if there are any fireworks. I couldn't do that to you. Obviously, Mike promoted to the select group of assistants was an unbelievable time for you. But the year after, you're on FIFA. You really are off and running now. I mean, how were your emotions? What were your thoughts when you got the news?
It was quite surreal. I did. Having got onto the list officially 2006, my first game was actually with you on the Premier League at that time. We did Charlton against Manchester United, and a few days after that, I got a phone call from the FA to say, did I have a passport? Would I like to do a UEFA Cup game? And that was just amazing. And then a couple of days after that, even before this trip, I got a phone call again from the FA to say, we'd like to nominate you for the international list. And it's quite amazing because I'd literally done 5 or 6 Premier League games at that point. But I do think having the 8 seasons as a national group assistant gave me a really good grounding, and a lot of the skills that helped me along the way. That resilience, that determination was sort of born over those years coming through. So although it was quite quick at the end, I think the skills that I built were really important to me.
Goodness me, all that advice I gave you didn't listen.
Absolutely.
No, but I mean, Premier League, international assistant, and then you're going abroad, you're on a tournament. Can you give us a little flavour of what a tournament's like? Because I think you were on the 2007 World Cup, was it? FIFA World Cup, Canada?
Yeah, the FIFA Under-20s World Cup. And again, that came out of the blue. I was at work one afternoon, got a phone call from the FA to say, what are the chances of you getting a month off work to go and do a tournament? And so my first thought was, do I ring my wife to say, how would she feel about me being away for a month? Or do I ring my boss at work to say, would you give me the time off? And because I thought, well, if he says no, then I don't want to upset the family and vice versa. So amazingly, both said yes, perhaps too quick, which made me wonder about how important I was at work or at home. And before I knew it, we were off to Canada. The things I remember were, it was such an unexpected and new thing for me, was the first day we arrived, there's a time difference, so I was suffering a bit of jet lag. And we went into a meeting room, and you've got officials from all over the world. I was sat next to somebody from Mexico. I'm just pinching myself. And the opening line of the seminar was, the journey to 2010 in South Africa starts today. And I genuinely thought, I'm in the wrong room. This is not what I was expecting at all. But FIFA used the age group tournaments as sort of stepping stones for selection process. The other thing that sticks in my memory from the start of it was that it was really warm. It was about 35, 36 degrees. And to qualify for the tournament, you had to do a fitness test on arrival. So, and if any one of the 3 in the team, so referee, 2 assistants, I was there with Howard, Webb and Darren Cann. If anyone in the team failed the fitness test, the whole team got sent home. Wow. So you can imagine being jet lagged, doing this fitness testing, quite extreme heat compared to the UK, thinking that if I mess up here, I'm going to be sat on a plane with these two guys traveling 3,500 miles with that kind of sorry I messed up bit. So that's quite a determination to get across the line, definitely.
Goodness me! I mean that is incredible. And the year after, you're off to Austria, Euro 2008, 2009. You know, you're doing the FA Cup final. Things are just flying at you when you reflect back to that 8 years on the Football League. Everything's really clicking in. Now, you mentioned heat and humidity. 2009, you're at the FIFA Confederations Cup in South Africa. How would you deal with humidity and climate and the climate?
To be fair, the things with South Africa was that our summer, it was their winter. So it was really quite warm in the day, but quite chilly at night. So humidity wasn't much the issue. The thing with South Africa was that it's at altitude. So the first week or so, you're adjusting to the change in altitude. And when you start running, you get the sort of tight chest. If you go running here in sort of January, February when it's cold and frosty, you get a sort of tightness in your chest, and it takes a while to get used to it. It's like that for that first sort of week or so, and then you adjust to it, and it was good. But it was strange to be really warm during the day, but on some days you'd wake up and it'd be sort of frosty in the morning, and in the evenings you'd go to watch a game if you weren't appointed, and you'd have a sort of big winter coat on. So it was a sort of bit of a strange experience, really, but a fantastic one.
I mean, you're knocking appointments off in tournaments like at such a pace. It is incredible. I mean, 2009, the Under-17 World Cup in Nigeria. Can you give us a flavour of what it's like when you're away for quite a period of time? You know, how you occupy yourselves. Obviously, there's training to do, but what else do you do?
Yeah, it's it does take a bit of getting used to. Going with two people that are very good friends makes it easier because you're a lot of time in each other's company. The day becomes quite a routine. So it's normally up, breakfast, off to training, which was a combination of physical and practical training. Then you'd be back at the hotel for lunch. Then there'll be seminars. Once the tournament starts, there's games to watch, and you normally have a base hotel, and you travel off to the different venues. So if you've got a venue some distance away, it became a sort of mini trip in itself. And they were great because it gave you a break from the sort of norm of the day to day. But the challenge is kind of enjoying the bubble of the football and the tournament that you're in, but also keeping a sense of reality to the outside world. So sometimes the three of us would just go off for a walk somewhere. Sometimes we'd sort of watch a film together in the evening just to be something different from football. And keeping in touch with family at home was important. And although it's dead easy now with really good Wi-Fi across everywhere, the first tournament I went on, it wasn't so easy. And sometimes you'd be struggling to keep in touch, which does make it quite challenging as a sort of family man, really.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, wow, to go to Nigeria under 17 World Cup, and you talk about, your World Cup journey starts here, of course, in 2010. You've officiated the Champions League final, and then, well, I've got to say I've got goosebumps now, knowing you as well as I do. 2010 FIFA World Cup, South Africa. Mike, the floor's yours.
Again, everything that happened seemed to just fall into place for us. I mean, the Champions League was a fantastic event, a fantastic occasion. You're dependent on other factors. So it was the first year for I think about 8 or 9 years where no English teams had made it beyond the sort of quarterfinal. So we knew that meant there was a possibility for us. And when that landed, fantastic. The game went superbly, and it was a great evening. Going to South Africa, the first game we had was Spain against Switzerland. Spain absolutely dominated the game, but incredibly Switzerland won it 1-0. So it was a really challenging game. And the second game we had, I had a fairly quiet day. Kenny had the most incredible game, ball over the line decisions, some really tight offsides, but the games were going well. And it's like a team a football team in the tournament. You kind of build a bit of momentum. You also need that little bit of luck. For us, England getting knocked out in the first knockout stage, and other match officials perhaps having situations arise that didn't fall their way, which you'd never wish on anybody, but opened up opportunities. And lo and behold, the final appointment, which we kind of referred to as the ultimate game, came our way.
You know, when you got back home and you walked through your front door, how did you feel?
It was quite amazing, because I travelled up to the tournament by National Express coach. I don't know if I'm allowed to advertise for people, so I travelled up.
Other brands are available.
Absolutely, I travelled up my coach, and there was an expectation there'd be a bit of interest when we came back, particularly for Howard more so than Darren and I. And PGMOL actually put a vehicle on for us. So I had one message, and somebody said, your life will never be the same now from doing the final. And so my first experience of that was being sort of chauffeur driven home, which felt amazing. Came in, my kids were at school in the afternoon when I got home. So my wife was at home, a big hug, and then she presented me with a list of jobs that hadn't been done right away. So my wife is fantastic at being my biggest supporter, but also keeping me grounded when I need to be. So so it was cleaning the kitchen floor, I think, was top of the list.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. I mean, from the euphoria of a World Cup final, as I said, I've got goosebumps asking you this. You've come back, and the season after, you've got the FL Cup final in 2012. You've got the Championship final. How did you stay grounded and, continue with your motivation to go again?
I think two ways. One, as I mentioned, my family and keep cleaning that kitchen floor sort of thing. So I think it's about just being who you are and not changing. And if I'm honest, I never ever expected to be selected for international stuff, let alone the major tournaments and to get the opportunity for the final of the World Cup. So in some ways, that it never felt as though that was the completion of things, because I never really expected it. So it was just the buzz. There's no better feeling, and you'll relate to this having now retired as well, but that buzz of walking out of 5-3 in a packed stadium, it's the one moment where every fan in the ground is cheering, and you can never replace that. And that, having that opportunity to do that week after week in some fantastic stadiums, is just an amazing adrenaline buzz. So that never went away. So that's what you want more of.
I mean, knowing you as I do, you are the ultimate professional, and you've always stayed grounded in everything you've done with assistant refereeing. But 2 years after the World Cup final, you're off to Euro 2012. It's just incredible.
It just became a constant cycle of, as one tournament finishes, in the same way qualifying starts for the national team. So the World Cup finishes, they start qualifying matches for the European Championships. And it's the same for match officials, that your focus shifts to go, right, we'd like to get onto the selection panel for the next tournament. So when 2010 finished, the ideals go up to 2012. That was an important personal one for me, because Euro 2008 was my first major tournament. Everything going into that had been a sort of success and a success. Quick selection for the FIFA list, games going well, selected for a tournament at the first time of asking, and I made a mistake in my first game at the Euros with an incorrect offside. And the support of Howard and Darren to want me in the team after that was the catalyst for sort of 2009 and then the World Cup. But the Euros felt really personal to me, to be able to be selected for another European Championships and sort of metaphorically bury the ghost, if you like, of 2008. So that's probably the tournament I was most determined to be selected for and to be successful at a personal level, to almost prove to myself I could do it.
Wow. I mean, 2013, you were involved in the Community Shield again, but also the same year, it was the FIFA Confederations Cup. You couldn't go to another World Cup, could you?
Well, yeah, we knew at that point we were on the road for it, and in some ways, I guess we were better placed to be selected than previously, in that we, as a team, both individually and collectively, have much more experience. We've now been to tournaments before. We've done many more sort of big domestic games and Champions League games and qualifiers and so on. So we knew we were a sort of more established team in that environment. But equally, it was the first time that a team of officials that had done a final had then come back to do another tournament. So it had a different dynamic to it, because everybody going to a tournament dreams of getting the final. We knew that wasn't our ambition. Our ambition was to just go and deliver the games that we were appointed to. So it was a different dynamic. But again, the opportunity to do a football tournament in Brazil, it doesn't get much better than that.
Absolutely. Did you find that because you'd done the final when you were at the World Cup in 2014, match officials were coming to you for advice and guidance, and they wanted help? How could they improve? Was that the norm, or was it infrequent?
I think the experience of tournaments, and indeed any sort of training camps that we do, here domestically or with UEFA and FIFA, the camaraderie amongst officials and the support amongst officials for each other to do well, so to try and help each other, whether that's on the training ground or in response to sort of situations on the field. Everybody just wants to help each other. And I guess one of the things that I brought was that I've got the experience of and the positive emotions of being involved in some big games, but also that moment in Euro 2008 where it didn't go my way, and that didn't prove fatal for me. So I think that gave me an experience to share with whoever might be in that difficult position as well.
Yeah, that's good. I think, we're always learning. So again, 2014, your second World Cup, you come back. I'll tell you what then, the year after, let's do the Europa League final.
I know. I was so many points in my career are sort of sliding door moments where you think the film where the person misses the train or gets the train, and how life changes along those way. And for me, Howard retired after 2014, and I got the opportunity to work with Martin Atkinson, who was progressing in Europe and a really top class referee. So to have the opportunity to sort of then join his team, and then with him to be selected for the Europa League final and then subsequently Euro 2016 was just a wonderful experience for me.
With all the experience you had of tournaments, and my goodness me, you have got some experience. 2016, the Euros, you must have been worth your weight in gold.
I think you just want to be the best that you can in every moment. And I was conscious that FIFA had an age limit of 45, and I would be 46 for Euro 2016. And they were just at the point of considering extension. So I was fortunate in that regard that the FA and UEFA accepted an extension for me. So I was the oldest assistant going into that tournament. And that provides a different dynamic, because you're very conscious that you want to be as fit as the youngest, fastest person there, or that's how my mind works anyway. So I was probably fitter at that tournament than at any point in my career, because I knew I never wanted to give people the opportunity to look and go, yeah, but of course, we got an extension to be here kind of thing. So it drove me to be even more determined to going into that tournament to not stand out for the wrong reasons, and to end up, with a fifth consecutive major tournament was beyond any of my dreams, really.
And realistically, it was something you didn't have to do, but personal pride and doing the right thing and representing, English match officials was something that made you do it. I mean, what is it, do you think, the main thing that kept you on top of your game for such a long period of time?
I think just the sheer joy that you get from being appointed to those games and being a part of successful teams. And I think in the biggest thing for me was never believing I was actually that good. So I knew I had to work really hard to be in those arenas. So I would go to a select group meeting and think, I've got to work really hard to keep my position here. And at tournaments, you know you're genuinely competing with the best in the world, and anything short of my absolute best was never going to be good enough. And so that a little bit of imposter syndrome in some ways, if you like, of always thinking I've got to try and work, I've got to work harder because the standard is so good.
So in 2016, you rolled your flag up for one last time, put it in your bag, and you were finished.
Yeah.
But you didn't have time to breathe, did you? Because you took up the position head of assistant referees for PGMOL. Absolutely fantastic. Mike, can you give us a bit of an overview, moving on now, of your role, what it entails?
Yeah, so as head of assistant referees, I directly coach and manage the 29 select group 1 assistant referees. So they're all employed full time, and the standard at that level is just phenomenal, and it's moved on so much since I retired. You know, the officials at that level sort of beat themselves up over the smallest of margins. Incredible standard. I also oversee the coaches that look after Championship, League 1, League 2, National League, Premier League 2, and the Women's Super League and Women's Championship. So all things assistant refereeing, I kind of have I'd like to say a sort of finger on the pulse, if you like. And what we're trying to achieve with that is similar to a football academy, of assistant referees going about their business in the same way. So whether that's at step 1 level, Women's Championship, League 1, Premier League, the skill set of, do I flag, do I use the comms kit, what do I say, how do I work with this team, the principles are the same. The execution, the skill level and the experience might not be as great, of course, and that's how, you know, academies would work, that their age group players would try and play in the same way and build the experience to come through, so that hopefully as people we talk about development opportunities, if we pick somebody out and give them an opportunity at a high level, the mechanics of what they do is going to be the same. The speed of the game might be different, the skill level might be different, but the basics would be consistent to hopefully make the transitions as easy as possible.
I mean, wow, you've got a massive, massive responsibility there. Can you just give us a little flavour of some of the on-field and off-field training that you do with the assistants?
Yeah, there's we have a number of sort of face-to-face meetings, and also during the COVID period and beyond, you can also do a fair bit remotely, so online training, but nothing beats the being face-to-face, being able to get people out on the training pitch. So using sort of cameras to film training and giving that insight and that real-time feedback to go, right, you've made this decision. What's your picture? Do you think you were right? If so, why? What were you focused on? And then being able to see that back straight away is brilliant. And we're now at the point of trying to take that to the next level, because most of the camera work we do is with a fixed camera. So you, as the assistant, you know, if I'm going to make a decision, it's going to be in the width of the camera, so the view of the camera. So we've done some work, and we're now actually in the process of getting some people trained up to use drones, whereby we can have a picture higher up, so we can make it as realistic as possible, because you don't know if or where the decision is going to come anywhere on the pitch, which is, you know, as true to a game as we can make it.
I mean, we talk about refereeing team now, don't we? The refereeing team. I mean, the role of the assistant referee is crucial now in assisting referees. Is there any more development that you can offer to get them up to speed to the next level? And if so, how do you do that?
I think there's always, I mean, even the best officials in this country and across Europe are always striving to be better than they can. You know, perfection doesn't exist, but it's what we aspire to. Mm-hmm. And I think as long as you kind of aim for that, but accept that you can never get there, then that will always drive you on. And whether it's that one extra decision in a game, and at the elite level, it might be one extra decision in a season that you can call correctly, then that's great. And so I think anybody who thinks they've got it sorted is probably set to trip up somewhere along the line, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the myths around match officiating is accountability. People think that you put your kit in your bag at 4:45, you go home, you're not accountable. Can you give us a little bit of a flavour of accountability and how assistant referee performances are assessed?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you talk to people in football and they'll always describe if a game doesn't go well, or if they don't play well, or if they lose, their mood over the next 24, 48 hours, 2-3 days even, isn't great. And I can relate to that hugely. If I didn't perform as well as I wanted to, I got something wrong, my mood over the next couple of days was really quite poor. And so I think that demonstrates how much you care about what you do. And nobody blows a whistle or waves a flag without caring about what they do. And I think that's the thing I would emphasize first and foremost. And at each level, all the levels I've talked about today, there is an assessment of performance, whether that's an observer in the stand, getting a real-time feel, whether that's feedback from clubs. And at the highest level, it's the evaluation that looks at every decision, throw in, free kick, goal kick, foul, no foul, onside, offside, to determine if that decision is correct or not and how difficult it was. And every official drives to get every decision right.
Proud moments alert for you then. Stuart Burt, Simon Bennett, Gary Bezic and Adam Nunn. Wow.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. To have a referee and 2 assistants chosen for any tournament is special. For us now to have 3 tournaments in a row where we've had 2 match official teams there is amazing. I couldn't be prouder of all 4 of them. I'm really proud of all the assistant referees I work with, the ones I work most closely with, obviously I have the strongest relationship with. And for those 4 to be metaphorically and literally waving a flag for us is just incredible. And I'm sure they will have an amazing tournament.
Mike, your passion shines through, it really does. And your career has been amazing, and what you're doing now is absolutely fantastic. If someone came along to you and said they were at the crossroads of their career and they didn't know which way to go, what advice would you give somebody who wanted to go down the assistant refereeing path?
I think first and foremost, it's follow your heart. What do you enjoy most? Because it might be a case of saying, well, the stepping stone to a bigger match fee or more games might be that route or that route. But fundamentally, you've got to do what is in your heart and what you love to do. I think once you've chosen that path, whether that's as a referee or as an assistant, is very simple. It's just work hard and stay humble. You're never quite as bad as your worst game. You're never quite as good as your best game. And just use all the tools around you. I mean, the coaching structure that we've got now is the best it's ever been for referees and assistants. The opportunities in the game are tremendous. And even things like MOAS TV. Any match official now can look at any game across the competitions, and at Premier League level there are 6 or 7 cameras on each game. So as an assistant referee, you could pick a Premier League game and watch from the 18 camera and just watch the assistant referee. That's as good as being in that stadium. So use all the tools around you, but just make sure you enjoy everything you do.
One final question from me, Mike. What are your overall aims for the group?
For the group, and it sounds very cliched about allowing and providing a platform for every match official to achieve the best they can. Okay, so that best might be doing a Football League game, it might be doing a Women's Super League game, it might be becoming an international match official. And provided people enjoy it, feel they're progressing and have opportunities to progress, then everything that we do that improves the overall standard makes me really, really proud.
Fantastic. Mike, it's been absolutely brilliant speaking to you. An absolute pleasure from my point of view. If you watch this back, your enthusiasm, your energy is incredible. You're very passionate about what you do. And we're seeing, the signs of that now, as you just mentioned, 4 of our assistants at the World Cup. It couldn't get any better. Thanks very much for taking the time to speak to us today, and best of luck for the rest of the season.